We also have Dr. Usman Chohan, who's advisor on economy, also an economic expert. Thank you for being with us today. Before I go to the studio, I'm going to go to Usman here. Dr. Usman, there is, these cuts. First of all, I would like to hear from you what kind of an effect, because we have been, consistently hearing about the burden that particularly a certain segment of society is feeling. As far as this electricity tariff is concerned, how it's going to work towards lessening that burden, and do you expect it to have, a significant effect? First of all, let's hear you on that.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be on your show and nice to see you. I share your sentiment expressed that these pro-people policies are the right step for the government to take. There was a time recently that we were in a bit of a crunch economically, and we needed to secure IMF guarantees and credit to jumpstart things. But at the same time, we have always considered the people to be the most important stakeholder. Therefore, when we have imposed difficult policy decisions, including higher electricity tariffs, we have done it with a sense of regret that ordinary people are bearing the brunt of it. And those ordinary people have had a very difficult time. So when we say that pro-poor policies are being raised as a matter of policy, as a path forward, I think it's a very good thing. How much can it be done? That is a tough one, because we are still bound by this IMF agreement. And that does expect us to rationalize tariffs and electricity structure of the entire electricity system, the entire energy system, in a way that is still punitive towards ordinary people. So what I see is that the government will strike a careful balance, that it will not transgress what it has promised to the IMF, but it will start to ease in places that are possible. And at the same time, I believe that the people of Pakistan in all social classes are now making their own decisions about renewable energy and battery storage and solar that will actually ease their own burden. So I think the people have a responsibility to assist the government in this. Otherwise, we cannot do it without everybody being on the same page.
But what you're saying, I'll come back to you on this. Usman, do you think there was any option but to go down this road? I mean, again, the same question. And, of course, that's extremely important, but the symbolism of it, is, to some extent, one has to contend, is also important. When we are, is it the right signal to send? One, that we are following the whatever, IMF has, the guidelines, the checks in place as far as IMF is concerned, but also that it is also a symbol that the government is minimizing spending, the government is prioritizing, dealing with these issues which have not been dealt with for a long time. Do you agree with Wadi Saab that it might be difficult to actually, as far, it is certainly on the agenda, it seems that, a lot of steps have been taken towards privatizing, PIA, for example. So what is your thought on that?
Yes, I think you're making a very good point that there are steps being taken in the right direction. This is incontestable. PIA is the flagship in that regard because it has the maximum political will to reduce it and bring it off the government's balance sheet and into private hands. However, if we have to really look at reform in our society and our economy, you have to do much more heavy lifting than that. We would actually have to redesign how the state works, not just at the federation level, because the federation is actually carrying too much weight, but in fact, the provinces and the local government, there is a lot that has to be done to really engineer. But in order to do that, you have to ruffle so many feathers, you have to walk on so many eggshells that any government, not just this one, feels that, it's better to take it a little bit gradually. That graduation of steps has actually cost us 75 years. So I do concede and agree with your point that there are important steps being taken. But is this going to be enough to take us off the on-ramp to the IMF in the future? Perhaps not, in the sense that the dependencies in our major deficits, fiscal deficit, current account deficit, currency deficit, they all still may persist. And more importantly, we are still at the mercy of global economic trends. So the last 2 years have been tough for the whole world. It's been a cost of living crisis for the whole planet. We have taken a disproportionate brunt of that. I want Pakistan to be strong so that when the rest of the world is having a hard time, Pakistan should actually be okay. But that requires real solidification from the top to the bottom. So that's where I'd like to present a different perspective on that.